Hello, this is Dr. Castleberry back with the next segment of our week 1 video discussion. Who knew that this discussion would last so long? But it is, and it's because of you all. What fantastic questions, and I'm just relieved that there is so much that we can engage in despite not meeting in person, having an online setting. We're demonstrating the continuous evolution of online education. We're blowing the doors off this thing and recognizing it is so ripe with value, and it meets our needs for a 21st century working world, and even persists despite national, if not global, quarantine. We're making this work, all right? And we're doing some work, good work. Let me jump to some questions. I'll try to lighten you around this. We'll see how it goes. No promises, as usual, because, Seth has a few questions I might jump into quickly. First, are facial expressions and body language a form of communication? Yes, absolutely. First of all, those are both sound like nonverbal. They all fall into the category of nonverbal communication. But here's a couple of buzzwords that we could be further exploring if we're interested in that sort of thing. And I'm guessing it has, yet again, some cross-disciplinary utility in other fields. But I'm thinking about two words right now: haptics and proxemics, right? As that study of kind of not only how we use our intimate body language to communicate, but how that occurs often within an interpersonal type of space, which is interesting, which is unique, because I would consider kind of the framework of this class. We're very interpersonal in some ways. In once we establish that video connectiveness between us, but yet it's distinct all the same. It's computer mediated communication as well. But we're virtually, right? You see where I'm doing this? It's a pun and not a pun. We're virtually in an interpersonal space of sorts. Next question. In today's society, it's important to have knowledge. Is it important to have knowledge about popular culture? Hey, that's subjective. Popular culture is seemingly frivolous. Guess what's going on right now? The entertainment industry has shut down, right, in response to COVID-19, the coronavirus pandemic, and they're trying to take those productive steps to protect the working people there, of which there are thousands and thousands, but also because, hey, guess what? Movie theaters are closed down. But you know what? Entertainment persists, right? While I can't go out right now and go to the movies, which would have been fun in this class, and it's definitely built into how we originally were envisioning this course rolling out for us. And this is not the end you'll hear from me talking about that. Think about what we're doing. Literally, I have heard government officials, people, high-ranking, significance, importance, or whatever, telling people, stay home and watch some TV, right? Stay home and chill and watch Netflix, whatever. It's that kind of situation. And you know what? We can make a secondary argument. One can make the argument, it doesn't make it right, but one could argue that kind of mass-mediated entertainment, aka digital distraction, whatever, is helping some, if not many people cope with being kind of enclosed, isolated. And let's remember, we went back talking about early on. Someone made a comment about extroverts versus introverts, right? And it could have even been on our message board, right? Our written discussion. And that's about a 50-50 split. So possibly a healthy ratio of people are feeling very settled and recharged and rejuvenated by getting to kind of spend extra time kind of away from people, indoors, isolated, right? Kind of me time or whatever. And I don't mean that in a selfish way. I mean that in a kind of in a cognitive way, in a psychological way. But then others absolutely, your extreme, your social, barflies, gabflies, whatever, they're going nuts, right? They need to be out. They need to be, kind of engaging with people. Physical contact, hugs, high fives, whatever could be very important to them, and so they are waning. So entertainment can kind of help close that gap a little bit digitally, virtually, the simulation of communication engagement. Whereas, back to the point, is it important to have knowledge about popular culture? Yes and no. All right. So certainly throughout our major, we've framed it in a way that helps highlight or cast a light on why it's important. Whether or not it isn't important, that's entirely subjective, right? Hey, I can travel around the country and I can come across, get this, I can come across people that are completely shut off from certain things. I meet people all the time that they haven't seen a movie in 30 years, right? Or they definitely haven't seen a new movie, in 30 years. People that have completely stopped, they don't go to the movie theaters or whatever. Flip-flop, there are people that, quote unquote, cut the cord, and maybe they don't even have streaming services. We think about, book, I'm just using the label here, bookworms or whatever, literate people. There are people that just, read, and then they have the internet, and then they don't even have a television. They don't have, so they're kind of omitting maybe television and film from the vocabulary, but they love literature and fiction and nonfiction alike, and they still get on the internet, right? And I bet most of those people eventually they'll start creeping toward the old Netflix or Hulu or whatever. And this is just demonstrating something, right? And I want to throw out a term, right? And we're not afraid to use some graduate level terms throughout a course like this. But we can say that just like multimedia, popular culture is ubiquitous, right? It is commonplace. And maybe a trick question from Seth, because we have a course we teach, Digital Persuasion in the Social Media Age. And in that course, we have a book, Globalization in American Popular Culture by Lane Crothers. And it just came out with a new edition. So if you haven't had that course yet and you're a comm major, by the time it comes back around, you get the newest edition. Anyway, the entirety of that book is about demonstrating that popular culture, not English, has become, in many ways, the global language. And that is groundbreaking. Like that is an enormous paradigm shift. So is it important to have knowledge about popular culture? Maybe it's an unfinished question you're asking here, and I'm fascinated by all the considerations, right? Is it important to have knowledge about popular culture as tied to being successful? Nope, right? Like I said, hey, a doctor doesn't have to be familiar with popular culture to become a surgeon, right? A nurse doesn't have to do that. And these are well-paying. A welder doesn't have to have popular culture knowledge to go and weld, right? A lawyer, an attorney doesn't necessarily have to have working knowledge of popular culture to become successful in their field. And we can continue down the list, right, of specialized areas. But you know what? There is a lot to be said about the kind of communal takeaways that we get from a popular culture, right? What do we gain from it? Or how do we teach lessons? How do we teach values? How do we share ideas? Humans are storytelling beings, and the majority of popular culture is variations on storytelling. What music, right? Genre, mass media genre of music. What is music? Collection of songs. What are songs? Lyrics. What do lyrics do? They tell a story, right? Television tells a story. What does the news do? It tells us stories about the real life events of today, talking points of today. Reality TV, it tells us a story, often exaggerated and fictionalized, or at least prepared in advance. Story. Spoiler alert. What is film? Film is storytelling. Hour and a half, 2 hours, 2.5 hours. What are we doing on social media? We're archiving in real time the quote unquote story of our lives, right? So, what would be significant here, Seth and others, is to see we're blending and blurring what maybe we used to traditionally see as popular culture and what has become popular culture. I talk to young people all the time, online classes, but I have on-ground classes. I engage with sort of all age demographics. But when I'm dealing with young people, something that I hear more often now is that the alternative source of media is their primary source of media, right? And the example I use is YouTube. Like, they're getting everything off of it. They can listen to music, of course, off of it, but they want news, they're getting it off YouTube. They want entertainment, they're watching it on YouTube. And a lot of people, when we talk about that third tier of our CALM program, it's social media studies. A ton of people are using social media to make their living now, and the best of those we refer to as social media influencers, right? And there's a certain cachet there, and how do they cultivate a following of 10,000, 50,000, 100,000, a million followers? It is likely has to do with some base understanding of popular culture, right? They're co-creating culture themselves, a different kind of culture, a niche kind of culture, a narrowcasting culture. But when Toy Lady, who's just with their hands opening toys, is like in the top 10 most viewed channels of all time on YouTube, and she's making over $10 million a year in ad revenue because she has so many views. I mean, and what these toys are reflective of popular culture, and this straightforward, this very basic video series has 4 times as many viewers as was watching, The Office when it was coming on NBC Live, which is everyone's quote unquote, one of their like favorite shows to watch now. And Toy Lady's videos her numbers are through the roof. They're higher than like news channels and most sporting events. What is that? That is a usage of popular culture and mass media we see where we're going there, right? It's complex. I didn't get where I wanted on the end of that, but I was close. Looking at the other burger text, Seth writes, can there be different definitions of an artist? I like this question. I was actually just trying to jump right to it, but it didn't. And what he's referring to, if you all haven't checked out the introduction to Media and Society from Berger yet, he, right off the bat, I love it. In the intro, he introduces his critical method for examining popular culture, or really any media. And it's the 5 focal points. It's this focal points model, of which one of his terms, he tries to use like sounding terms so it's easy for us to remember, right? He's being savvy like that, is artist, right? And the question is, can there be different definitions of an artist? Of course. And so here, let's just throw it right out there. We're not going to dance around it. Artist, when we're talking about an artist, what is an artist? We're talking about the producer of the text. Whatever the text is, mass mediated text. We're not talking about someone that's sitting with paintbrushes, dropping buckets or whatever. I mean, that can be that, but the producer of any text is the artist. So let's add another word. When we study rhetoric, right? Aristotle, he would talk about the rhetor, right? The rhetor, the producer of a persuasive message. And he's talking about in the context of producing probably like written, linguistic or written messages for persuasion. And we can think all texts have a potential to persuade, like they have a persuasiveness to them if they're communicating signs and symbols to a potential audience. And so an artist, we can also recognize that, call them a rhetor, right? They're the producer of a message, of a text, right? A painting is a text, and it's telling something, and it's created by an artist, right? A text message on your cell phone is a message created heading in a direction to be received and interpreted. It can have creativity to it, and you're the artist, you're the author of it. So there's another word, right? We said artist, we said the producer of a text, the rhetor in the instance of that the text has a persuasive value. And then what I just said it. artist, rhetor, producer, producer of the text, right? Author, right? You think of it, a book is the text. Who writes books? The author, all right? So the artist is the author, the producer, the rhetor, and so on. Next question, final question I'll take here. Will Americans consume just about anything when it comes to quote unquote art? And let's break that myth down, right? Here's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a fantastic example of, well, it's kind of a hasty generalization, but it's something else here. This is one of the most common problems we face in the U.S. is this kind of thinking of everyone as this giant lump sum. And there's so much. I've talked a lot about objectivity this week, and let's talk about subjectivity, right? Art is subjective. Here's something floating around Facebook right now. I'm seeing people write there, oh, while I'm sitting here in quarantine, this list is going around about, you may know some things about me, but I'm going to list 10 things I don't like that everyone else does, right? And then they get 10 things to make themselves sound like they're unique. And so, this kind of question immediately we can kind of slap around and say, no. Will Americans consume just about anything because when it comes to art? I mean, someone somewhere would do anything, right? So, look at TikTok. I mean, my goodness. Someone out there is willing to do anything. And some of us aren't, right? And some of us don't, some of us won't. So, we have agency. There's certain areas we can't control. I mean, but then there's certain things we can't control. I don't know. I might be overreading into this question. Just give it a simple no and move on. But I mean, for Americans, let's pause. Let's go demography here. I'd love like a live quiz you right now. I'm talking about the whole class. Do we even know the population in the U.S.? Are we even with it? That's a perfect question because it's a census year, people. It's a census year. That's significant for many reasons. Fill out your census data, send it in, be accurate as soon as possible. But we have 330 million people in the U.S. And that's not counting the people that wouldn't be counted, right? That's a significant number. At the same time, sometimes we're just completely clueless. There are other countries that are larger by a lot, right? China, India, they both are over 1 billion people. We know this, right? Are we familiar with this? Sort of something like 1.1 and 1.5, right? So collectively, they're close to half the world's population, those two countries. I mean, are your minds blown yet? But the U.S. is actually right behind them, right? The 330 is an incredibly large number. And you think about we're the quote unquote melting pot and what that means. And some have argued melting pot's a bad metaphor and we should be more like a stew, but whatever. Smorgasbord. We're diverse and we're huge, right? And that means there's difference everywhere. Everyone's got different taste, different choice. Okay, so this is self-defeatist to ever think that to consider us just completely collectivist. In fact, we know we're not because a lot of people have intentionally tried to create divisiveness to make us feel like we're further apart ideologically than we are. And so, will Americans consume just about anything when it comes to art? There's something for everyone, and at the same time, that's it's deceptively too complex a question to pose. All right, I'm not sure if this will be the end of our talk for today, but it could be. Kind of burn through another lecture series and have some other items. Got to get to a digital conference, right? And partake in some professional development and some other kind of adulting duties there. And I'll look forward to engaging with you all continuously as we work through this course. Thank you for listening.